podcast and leave us a 5-star review. I'm Leah Merrill here with Craig Morgan and Steve Peters on, I guess every show on our network on Friday is Friday Fun Day, except maybe for Petey, who has...
When is my life ever
like,
Friday
cool.
Fun
He was
Day?
concerned already.
By the
Friday
way,
Fun Day?
And I wish almost that the mics were on during the countdown and intro so you all could hear the level of angst in Petey while we're counting down to the show beginning. But
I didn't tell you, by the way, we changed the topic of the show, right? 5 minutes ago.
I'm trying my best. I need 5 monitors. I need notebooks. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, let's... Happy fucking Friday.
well, I guess you could say it is Friday the 13th, which tends to be a cursed day for some. Do you believe in Friday the 13th or curses or superstitious things like that?
I kind of think we should ask our producer, Sean, to pause because it doesn't sound like Friday the 13th got off to a good start for him.
I mean, it depends on how you look at it. I got a tattoo. Can't really see it, but I got a new tattoo because
As one does.
Tattoo shop was giving out cheap tattoos as they do on Friday the 13th. But I got there at midnight and didn't get the tattoo
you guys
until
haven't heard
6 in the morning.
No, that's the part that blows my mind.
I have so many
Like,
questions.
wait, it's like that's just
So many
common
follow-up
knowledge?
questions.
That's common knowledge. Tattoo shops. Oh,
Yes.
yeah, for sure.
Well,
It's Friday the 13th.
this
No,
particular one I get. Oh,
No,
all of them?
all of them.
That's a thing?
That's common. That's
So
common
I should know
knowledge.
that. That's
So,
a
Sean,
thing I
where
should know.
was this tattoo shop?
Sunnysville?
Where do you live?
Avondale. It was damn near a 30-minute ride.
Okay. All right.
But the part that blows my mind is the getting there at midnight, not getting
Tattoo
in
till 6.
till 6
Was there
a.m.
like a line out the door or something?
A little bit. There was a decent number of people, but they were allowing people. The tattoo shop's been open for about a week, and this is their first time ever doing this.
And the guy just started. It's his third
No
tattoo.
concerns there.
All the tattoo
Just got my kid in the mail.
All the tattoo artists have been tattooing in the Valley for at least 10 years.
Jesus.
Shout out 7th Street
Okay.
Tattoo Shop.
Okay.
But this is the owner's first time doing it. So we allowed people to get up to 3 tattoos.
Yeah.
Which
Oh,
took far too
aggressive. Yeah.
long. Yeah. So,
I have to say, if anything goes wrong in this show, it's because Sean did not sleep
Yeah, hadn't
last
slept.
night.
Great. But he's got a new tattoo.
Yeah.
Yes, and
By
it's
the way,
very well done. It's very well
also
Very
done.
nice.
15 minutes before we went on the air, the things that you don't want to hear your producer say when they walk in the door. I want to crawl in a hole and die.
Not a good start to the day.
This would be a good show today.
Not a good start. Charles is here early. Is it early? It's not early.
It's not early, buddy.
It's not.
Close to
Feels
midday
early.
here.
I don't mind feels early. Just does.
Shouldn't for you. You're
Listen,
up at like 5 a.m.
we gotta juggle a lot of shit here. I don't know how I'm gonna get through all this. Just
Well, I want
Putting
to
a
start
heads
by
up.
pointing out that I'll be drinking a flavored Pellegrino today, and this is from Steve Peters, actually. So
yeah, it's an
I wanna give you a
unintentional
shout out, buddy.
Pellegrino purchase.
You have your Pellegrino.
You could've
He
taken
has
some
his
credit for it.
Safeway
I got my
brand,
Safeway brand water.
club soda,
Safeway brand.
Mm-hmm.
and I have water from my fridge.
Because you're not a sparkling person,
I'm not.
I am. Yeah,
but
You
you are
said
a
it.
non-lettuce
That's out of context quotes,
salad
by the way.
person.
Yes. By the way, I was validated because I went to a restaurant and they had no lettuce salad on the menu. All right, let's get.
Can we do this show?
Let's get into our topic today, which, now that we know that the Arizona Coyotes are picking 3rd overall in the upcoming draft, this is now going to be their 3rd time in history doing that. The Coyotes don't have a ton of picks in the top 10. In fact, so few that when we went into this topic, we had to extend it to the top 15. And today we are going to be looking at the best top 15 overall picks in Arizona Coyotes history.
We're gonna rank them. Petey and I are anyway, because
Yes.
we're the
the elder
in
statesman.
case you haven't noticed, we're the two old.
She was
people
barely
on this
alive
show.
on some of these.
And that'll come into play later this summer, by the way. The 2 old guys versus the 2 younger people on
Yes.
this show. That'll
So-
come into play.
It will.
Yeah,
we
we
were-
were young versus old. You probably don't remember. I understand. Memory loss is part of this.
Literally, no record. If we talked about it,
And by the way, this was going to be a collaborative list among the 3 of us, and then these 2 couldn't agree, and I said, I don't know. I know, obviously, in the last 10 years or so.
When were you born? Can we just put that
1996.
out? Right, the year that the
Coyotes.
got
Oh,
here.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
it's fair that you don't remember some of these draft
so
picks.
instead, I'll be moderating between Petey and Craig, and we'll put the lists up for a poll on Twitter later this afternoon, so you all can vote on who the list is more accurate, or you can reply with your own list, and maybe we'll agree that your list is
Yeah,
better.
You can put out your own list, or Or you can vote that my list is better, or I could unfollow you on Twitter. Your choice.
or get
those
that
are your
blocked,
choices.
get blocked by Craig S. Morgan.
The bad part for me is, and Craig, as being a writer that he is, he's got in the notes, because we have show notes, it's a thing. He types out these paragraphs of this and their stats and there's this. I go, oh shit, I'll remember this tomorrow. I got it. No problem. I got it. And I'm looking at my notes going, why did I pick that guy? Why did I pick him? Maybe Craig's list is better. So I'm not sure yet. I'm not defending my list until it comes out of my mouth.
I was ready for some fireworks here, but then you got me this, Petey. So
I know, the Pellegrino, that's great
sweet.
stuff.
It was a good move by you.
Who knew it wasn't water, though?
Unbelievable.
I thought it was water.
It's really good.
Okay.
It's not water.
Well, let me explain the criteria for these picks. So these players must be drafted by Arizona, so not Winnipeg. It's not the franchise.
Shane Doan
so
not
Shane Doan
available.
is not available. So it has to be drafted by either the Phoenix Coyotes or the Arizona Coyotes, not the Winnipeg Jets. And we had some discussion about this, but we decided that what consider someone the best is they don't have to be the best playing for the Coyotes. They just have to go on and have great NHL careers.
Right. The scouting staff decided.
The scouting staff did their job. No, the scouting, and we talked about, well, they had to do it for the Coyotes, but the scouts, when they pick that pick at that time, it's not their responsibility to develop that player or keep that player here. That's other people. They were picking that player as a scout, and this is the player of that year. So this player may have had success elsewhere, and that will play into where he ranks in our list of 10. And we also looked at it from the perspective of what it would be if they were considered lottery picks, because we just had the lottery. So this doesn't include the entire first round. It's not.
No,
just
it's
the first
just
half.
the top
It's
15.
the first. Yeah. So if they were lottery picks, so we mimicked if they were lottery picks, and we may do other rounds later, which we should.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we'll rank all the draft picks when we.
Does
get
Louis
closer
Domingue
to-
make it? Coyote 5th round pick, Louis Domingue.
Well,
If he wins the cup
we'll
by
see what
then?
he does tonight, buddy.
If he wins the
Yeah.
cup,
True.
Louis
We'll have
Domingue
to
wins
see.
the cup again. By the way, didn't he hoist it with? Did he have? Was he part of Tampa
I think so.
on
I
the
think
Tampa
he got-
roster?
I
I'm
think
pretty
he got-
sure.
Yeah, he was. Yep.
There you go.
Good for him.
Two-time
All right.
Stanley Cup winner Louis Domingue.
So who wants to start?
How are we doing this? How are we
I think we're
taking
gonna go
this
from 10 to 1,
up? Okay.
and I think
we're not gonna put him up initially.
no,
No.
because then you see our whole list.
That's fair. Okay. So do you want to go for? I think we have the same.
We do at number
actually.
10. We have the same. We do have the same player at number 10.
Victor Soderstrom,
Victor Soderstrom, 11th overall pick in 2019.
which tells you something about how the Coyotes have drafted in the top 15.
If
by the way.
Victor
If a guy
Soderstrom
who
is
really
making
hasn't made
the top
a mark in the NHL yet is still in our top 10. And listen, you could make an argument for a guy who's not going to be talked about elsewhere that we both had number 11, Peter Mueller, who had a remarkable rookie year, and then his career was just ravaged by
And
injuries.
you know what? Peter Mueller is a guy that at the time when he was drafted, you're like, oh my God, like what a dynamic player this kid was. Like he was so good and so skilled offensively. Injuries played a part of it. Concussions played a part of it, and it just. Another guy, like Chris Kalanos, another kid that you go, oh, wow, offensive upside. Remember that goal on Patrick Roy that everybody goes nuts over? That was the Chris Kalanos if he could have continued that path. Same with Peter Mueller, but they both got concussions. And
it
their
happened so
careers
early in his
were
career,
never
too.
the same.
The cool thing about Peter Mueller, I'll say this before we talk about Soto a little. Peter Mueller ended up out of the league after a few years, but he went to Europe, and he ended up carving out just a really cool career for himself and his family. Took his family, lived in some unbelievable cities. I wrote a story on him a couple of years ago. He really loved his life and his career after that. The thing that I always talk about with players, like I get wanting to make it in the NHL. It's the best league in the world. I get it. The money's better, all of that. But in terms of an experience, like there's a side of me that thinks I might rather play in Europe. Just like I think about like all the options of amazing cultures that I can see, the experience that you can have for yourself and your family. Playing in Europe is a really cool option for hockey players.
Very true.
So back to Soda.
So
We both have a 10. Drafted in 2019, he's played 20 total games and has 1 career goal in the National Hockey League. And to give you an idea of the drafting futility here of the Coyotes, that's a guy in the top 10. That's a guy that made the top 10 pick and he has 20 games and 1 goal. Just to kind of give you an idea of what we had to get through to get to the top 10. That's not ideal, having a guy in your top 10 of your entire draft career in the top 15 picks to have 1 goal.
No. And the fact that I know you already mentioned it, but the fact that he still made the top 10 is just a reflection of the Coyotes drafting.
Now he is a defenseman, and defensemen develop more slowly. So
fair.
There's still a little time for him, but
prove us wrong.
Next couple seasons, we better see something from Victor
time.
Soderstrom, or he may drop on this list. All right, let's move to number 9. Petey, you go first.
I got to get my list up again. Number 9, I have, from 2008, Mikhail Bodker. And you did not at 2008.
I have Bodker up a little higher, but go ahead, make your argument.
Well, Mikhail, with Bods, and here, it's not so much that I thought he fell to 9, but there are players throughout the list that clearly the thought or the notion is that they've had bad careers or they were bad draft picks. And I think I ranked them much higher as we progress. Michael Bodker had averaged just under half a point a game through his 709 games. He had 118 goals, had an outstanding playoff career where back-to-back overtime goals against Chicago propels the 2012 team into Arizona Coyote lore and history. Belongs in the top 10, but there are better players coming up later that surpass what Bodker did as a whole in the National Hockey League.
Okay.
Do you want to keep going on your list, or should we?
No, I think
go
he's got to
back
go
and
on.
forth?
Do my number 9. now.
Okay, Craig.
And I'm going to go with Dylan Strome. And I know Dylan Strome is probably going to have more points than Mikhail Bodker. But Dylan Strome was selected 3rd overall. Draft position matters to me. He was taken very high, and he was taken behind 2 guys who were considered franchise centers, Connor McDavid and Jack Eichel. So at the 3rd pick in the draft, does that sound familiar? Because that's where the Coyotes are going to be picking again this season. You got to nail it. And not only did the Coyotes not nail it with Dylan Strome and ended up trading him to Chicago along with they sent Brendan Perlini as well for Nick Schmaltz. When you look at the 2015 draft, it is loaded.
It makes me so sad.
Absolutely loaded with talent. Let me read you some of the names just to make my case here. In the 2015 draft, Mitch Marner, Mikko Rantanen, Sebastian Aho, Kyle Connor, Matthew Barzal. Do you want me to keep going here? I mean, Timo Meier, Brock
Jacob
Besser,
DeBrusk, Joel
Zach
Eriksson
Werenski.
Ek, Brock Besser, Konechny, Roslovic.
So many names
That
in
hurts
that
my
draft.
soul.
Like almost the entire first round is like, wow. Except Dylan Strome up here and Nick Merkley at the bottom. Sorry, Nick, but injury has really derailed his career. To me, that's what drops him so low because the expectations for Dylan Strome were so much higher as a number 3 pick. And he's going to have an okay career in Chicago. He's not a top-line center, so Blackhawk fans, and you know I'm a Chicagoan, don't convince yourself that he's a number 1 center. He's not. And he still has those defensive liabilities. He still can't skate. Because of the expectations for Dylan Strome, he drops all the way to 9.
And so, okay, so we're bouncing around a little bit because I have Dylan Strome so much higher on my list, and I'll tell you why. People get so caught up, and I get what happened afterwards. I get it, and there are some really good players. Dylan Strome still averages more than half a point a game in every game he's played in the league. He's played 273 games to date. He played more in those first 3 seasons than Barron Hayton did in his first 3 seasons. With more goals than Barrett Hayton had in Barrett Hayton's first 3 seasons. He's a first-line center in the National Hockey League. He will be a first-line center again next year. For those reasons alone, I have Dylan Strome much higher in the list.
He's the number 1 center because the Blackhawks don't have
still a number 1 center. And I think when you go back again through the Coyotes list, there are so many players that didn't play a freaking game that if a guy's got a career at all, it propels you automatically into the top 10.
I'm going to point out another reason why Dylan Strome has some points with the Blackhawks. It really helps to play alongside Patrick Kane.
Same thing you said about Mitch Marner then. Yeah. So Marner, if Mitch Marner plays for the Coyotes, does Mitch Marner have the points he has now? Hell no.
No, he doesn't.
So I think that's part of the two. Strome's first 3 years might have sucked because he played here. I don't know. And we got names on the list that we'll say you can go to where would they have fit if they would have played here for their entire career? Who the hell knows? Right. Honestly, who knows? Because you're not playing with the same players. Having said that, I won't get ahead of myself. Never mind.
You want to move to number 8?
Sure.
I'll start off with this one. At number 8, I have another number 3 overall pick, Kyle Turris.
This is getting Coyotes fans stoked for the number 3 pick this year.
Kyle Turris. A lot of hopes at this point that he was going to be the center that they needed, number 1 center. A lot of things happened early. Petey, you were on the inside, so you can probably lend some insight on that. But Kyle Turris didn't exactly make friends in the Coyotes dressing room early on. He was very immature at the time, made a lot of enemies. He didn't produce. He couldn't find his way into the lineup. The coach didn't want to put him in the lineup. And then he made outrageous contract demands, which I reported a long time ago. That was the beginning of my relationship with agent Kurt Overhard, who I really like. I love talking to Kurt. But when those things came out, I wrote a scathing column about Kyle Turris' contract demands. And, of course, eventually he was traded to Ottawa for David Runeblad and a second-round pick that they eventually used to get Antoine Vermette.
So,
yuck.
Again, so at number 8, I do not have Kyle Turris. Kyle Turris is another one of those players that is higher in my list for similar reasons. And I'll say this. If we were drafting who the better person was at negotiating through the management of the Arizona Coyotes, Kyle Turris might be last. He was an idiot. And when I say an idiot, I take that kindly, is that he could have dealt with management better. His management demands on his contract and being traded were tough. But here's what happened to the kid. With Kyle Turris, he gets drafted 3rd. And you want to know one of the reasons he got drafted 3rd? You know who really liked him? Was Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky loved Kyle Turris. Wayne Gretzky went to see this kid play personally. He liked Kyle. So when Kyle goes to college and he's playing at Wisconsin, get him out of school. We got to get him. We got to get him. Got to get him here. And the whole thought is he's drafted so high, we got to get him here quickly. Might have benefited his entire career and his entire experience here in Arizona if he would have stayed one more year of college. Might have helped his entire career for years to come. That didn't happen. Okay. So then they put him in the lineup the next year, played 63 games that next year, played 3 out of college and then the playoffs. So almost don't count those. Played 63, every opportunity. First power play, first line, first over the boards. And there became some issues in that particular season because we had so many, Victor Tikhonov, Bodker, and Turris all there together. And anytime there would be a power play, we had some experienced players on that team, and there's some veteran guys. And you'd see Turris throwing his legs over the boards before a coach called him. You're like, whoa, buddy, like relax a minute, like sit your ass down and wait. He expected. Things came too easily for Kyle Turris that first season. So what happens the second season? Beat it, Pigeon, and he went down to the American League. Played the entire season in the American League. Did not sit well with him or his agent or what he thought he should be. Now, in hindsight, if his development would have gone the other way and he would have started off in the American League, okay, I'm going to learn, I'm going to get better, instead of being anointed and told you're this and then having to pull it backwards, that's where I think the bitter taste started to come. But then you start to look over what he actually accomplished over his career. Again, over 700 games in the National Hockey League. He's another guy over half a point a game. Still, he was an effective player in the National Hockey League. Playing over 700 games to me is a win as a first-round pick. If you can get a kid and you pick him and he plays over 700 games, it's a win. So I have actually put Kyle up one spot higher than you. I have Kyle Turris at a 7 because of that. And I put Dylan Guenther at 8. Guenther may end up being 1. He may. He may be the best draft pick the Coyotes have ever picked. He might. But he might not. Yeah. And it's so hard to go on how good he is in junior. I struggle with even putting him in my top 10. I really like the kid. I think his goal scoring in juniors has been elite. And I think it's showing that he can do these things. Does it translate? I don't know. We have guys that didn't make the top 10. Henrik Samuelsson blew up the Western League. Like, blew it up. So, wait. I still put him in my top 10. He's at number 8. And that's why I had an 8 was Guenther, because I just don't know yet.
Okay. You mentioned development, by the way. How often can we say that in the Coyotes past, that had the development path been better, it might have changed the course of
and I don't want to put
careers.
I want to go back and say, hey, this isn't anyone's fault that these players were rushed along. At the time, they had to put together a roster of 23 players, and they felt that Kyle Turris belonged in that group of 23. That just wasn't a deep enough roster. It's never been deep enough to develop it the right way. And it starts with the draft. If you don't get it, you have to rush guys along too quickly. And we saw it this year. Too many players had to play too quickly because there just isn't the depth.
Yep.
It's Charles commented, Turris makes my eye twitch, LOL. And it's so funny because the whole Turris era, I was young, like I was a teenager, and I hated him. Like I hated him. And when he left, I was so relieved. But I think that's one that just sticks out for Coyotes fans.
Felt betrayed.
You
really felt betrayed.
Yeah, and the way it was all handled initially.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's a great person.
That's the thing. I've talked
he's
to
an unreal kid.
Yeah, I've talked to him in years since, and he was honest with me. His story, I wrote that how immature he was, and he's changed.
Yeah. He's so nice.
He grew up. He was great in the interview.
That's one that's just stickler.
To this day, if you'll stop me and ask me about my son, and he's so kind.
Yeah.
He was 19.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he thought your head is this big and people are telling you how great you are.
Yep.
It might have skewed his perception of reality a little bit.
All right. And he's your number 7, right?
That is correct.
So we don't need to talk about him anymore at number 7. I'll mention quickly that Mikhail Bodker was my number 7. And I like parts of Mikhail Bodker's game, but as a number 8 overall pick, he never really panned out. And talk about a guy, like, you remember that one year where they were given all sorts of opportunities running the power play, which was, quite frankly, under Newley Brown, was a disaster when Mikhail Bodker was running the power play. He had the 2 big overtime goals in the playoff against Chicago. I've also said that those are like 2 of the worst goals I've ever seen. Neither one of them should have gone in the net. It was just bad goaltending by Corey Crawford. So, but he had some good moments, but I don't think he ever lived up to his draft billing. But again, on this list of players, he's still sitting at number 7 for me.
And when you look at his draft year, the people that came behind him, we talk about Erik Karlsson came behind him, John Carlson, some 2 big high offensive defensemen, Jordan Eberle. And say what you want about Jordan Eberle, where he's fit, his career has surpassed what Michael Bodker was able to attain in his career. I like Bods. There were parts of his game he could skate as well as anybody this team has drafted. You just wish he had a little more bite to his game, because he was a bigger, stronger guy, and he just didn't have that part of his game.
Stout, yeah.
He
was
was
those
stout.
quads. They call him Quadzilla.
His legs were on. He had like tree trunks for legs. They were massive, like almost awkwardly large. So he could skate incredibly well. You just wish he had a little bit more bite or jam to his game than he did. It was always you just wanted a little bit more from Michael Bodker. Great, again, fantastic teammate, great kid. Offensively had an upside. People liked being around him and playing with him. You just wanted more, especially from a number 8 pick.
Number 6?
Craig, you go first since we already mentioned this player.
This is where I have Dylan Guenther. And again, this is like, I feel like I'm just pandering to all of you. I like what I'm seeing with Dylan Guenther out there, but I have no idea what he's going to do in the NHL. And Petey's absolutely right. Whatever he's doing in the WHL, it's great, but it means nothing for the NHL. So don't believe that because he's ripping it up scoring there, he's going to rip it up in the NHL. That B does not follow A. You don't know until these kids get to this level. And this is 2 levels above. You know, I don't know if he's going to spend any time in the AHL, but the NHL is a huge step up from the WHL. So we don't know, but I love everything that I've heard about the kids so far. There are a lot of people across scouting circles, across executive circles that rave about Dylan Guenther. So I'm going to go ahead and throw him at number 6.
My number 6 player, this guy you have higher on your list, is Barrett Hayton. Barrett Hayton in 2018. I think part of the reasons he didn't get higher on my list, again, we go back to expectations. And when you listen to what John Chaika and his scouting staff said about this player at that time, they were incredibly high. And I don't mean just like at the 5 pick. They loved this kid. Mm-hmm. And they loved him much higher on their list than at 5. They thought he fell to them at 5. Now, Barrett, his first season, 20 games, 1 goal. That's not high-end elite offensive player, but that's not the player he's supposed to be. He's a 200-foot centerman that can play all ends of the ice. I think Barrett probably would be higher on this list if he hadn't sustained injuries in each of those years. I think that just really hurt his development. Yep. I think every time he gets to where you go, okay, I'm starting to see it, he gets hurt and has to start all over again. And starting all over again for him tends to be back in Tucson. And so he has to go back to the American League and grind his way back up. I think the future is incredibly bright for this kid. I think he's going to find a spot. I don't think he's going to be a number 1 center for this team or this franchise. I don't think that's it. And we've said on this show, it's okay to be a third-line center. As long as you're a really good third-line center, you can help propel a team to victories and to Stanley Cups and to playoffs if you fit in the right spot. I think Barrett Hayton is probably going to end up being a number 3 center for this team, and that's okay. I just think the expectations thrust upon him from his World Junior play, from his points production in juniors, were so high that I think everyone expected this to happen sooner and at a bigger impact.
And he is my number 5 player, so we'll just jump right to that. The thing about Barrett Hayton for me is I have never seen a more disjointed development path than I've seen with him. And it's not just the injuries, it's COVID and the way it impacted the amount of games that he was able to play and where they had him, where he was playing. I think he probably got rushed a little bit. I didn't want to see that either, but he, you know, listen, I know a lot of scouts will tell you that going back and playing another year in juniors is fine. I do think that there are exceptions. There are guys that could play in the AHL and benefit more from learning the pro game. I think he's one of them. His whole path has just been messed up. What I saw from him this season was a guy who was matching up against top talent early in the season, doing a really good job defensively. All the details away from the puck, I really liked. And those are hard things to learn as a pro. We obviously need to see more production. We saw signs of it at the end of the season. And I guess the last thing, and this is a bit of a projection for me, is the reason I have him this high is he's my pick as the breakout player of the year next year for the Coyotes.
Wow, look at that early. Clip that thing.
There it is.
Holy
On
shit.
May 13th, we're calling it already.
Call it early.
Okay.
The other thing I want to look at with Barrett Hayton, too, is there was a lot of talk about that draft. You know, you've got some really good players. Svechnikov, Kotkaniemi, and Kachuk all went ahead of him. Really good players, and I'll give the Buffalo guy, Dahlin. We'll see if Rasmus Dahlin. Who knows? But the players drafted behind him.
He's actually sleeping back there.
Quinn Hughes, the very next pick after the draft, came in like a freight train in Vancouver. We'll see where those careers pan out. And 5 years from now, like Quinn Hughes was the big hot buzzword as the offensive defenseman after him. We'll see. I mean, these players are still so young, and Keandre Miller, you're seeing a lot in the playoffs with the New York Rangers, is another name that was a first-round pick of that year. But there really isn't a guy other than the people ahead of him that jump off. Like Joel Farabee is a couple picks behind him. Again, nice player. Yeah. But nobody's jumping on, oh, you missed that guy. You missed that guy. There's no real big misses behind him. I think they're all too young to see what they're going to be. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it's mostly fair. Yeah. You have your own guy at that.
Number five, my number five, which I've already talked about, was Dylan Strome, and so I won't spend a whole lot of time on it.
That's a huge difference from Craig.
Yeah, from Craig had him so far down because I think Craig took it in a different direction of because he was picked at third behind the players he was picked behind in a draft that was unbelievably rich with talent. To see that he was just okay when you compare him to the rest of the list of Coyote players, separate from who came before and after them. He's done pretty well.
Different methodologies.
Yeah.
Right. And he's done pretty well on a whole scale of, and do I think he's going to get to play 500 games in this league? I do. So he's going to reach a different plateau. So I think when you put, you could have had player A, B, C, and D. Yeah. And would they have performed better here? Maybe they would have. I think for me, I put Dylan up higher because you know what? In this list, his points per game is pretty freaking it's fourth. Yeah. Fourth on these picks, his points per game. And not that points are everything, but it's a measuring stick on a non-defenseman. And that's why he's higher on my list.
Sure. I get your losing argument. But
you guys actually...
Sadly, the rest of it sucks.
Yeah, we haven't made Leah moderate enough, so...
you guys actually agreed on your top four, though.
Yeah, we did. But the one player that came after Hayton that I think a lot of people look at is Quinn Hughes because he's put up a lot of points in Vancouver. Yeah, he's a nice offensive defenseman. Quinn Hughes can't defend a lick. Can't defend a lick if you watch him. He's a terrible defensive player. I think he took strides there last year, but he's not a good defensive player. I like Barrett Hayton's all-around game. I still like the potential there. But as far as the top four, how strange is that? We agreed. We're in agreement.
Before you leave out that Quinn Hughes thing, the last thing I'll say about Quinn Hughes, he's another guy that had the Torres Bodker Tikhonov thing, is he was given every opportunity in that year from the Vancouver Canucks, every first power play, and they didn't. So every power play point, he's on it, whether it's the first or second assist. So his points may be a little bit inflated as his career progresses. So we'll just say that about Quinn Hughes. Really nice offensive player, but some of those may inflated. 4 on up.
Same guys.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You can start with number 4.
Number 4. 2013 draft, Max Domi. I like Max Domi. And when you look at, I remember that pick specifically, and I got to go back and look. He's 12th. He was picked 12th in that draft. And one of the things, and I think that Max is incredibly public with his health. Max has diabetes.
Yep.
And I remember that being a huge topic of discussion that year because he played for the London Knights, tore it up. Like his points were ridiculous. And that there was always a concern about his health. And I tell you what, early in his career, when he first came to Arizona, it was a big adjustment in managing. And I hope I'm not saying anything too far out of school. It was a difficult adjustment managing that part of his game, because when you're in juniors, you're on a different schedule, different travel schedule, different practice schedule. It's a different way of life than when you get into the NHL, where it's chaotic. You're 3 and 4, you're traveling and you land at 3 a.m. and you're not on a consistent schedule. And I think that first stretch of his career was a little bumpy road for him, finding out how to manage all that. And it was tasked with incredibly strong medical staff here, the doctors here. They were able to figure all that out, and that's when you really started to see Max Domi flourish. Offensively gifted, he's playing an offensive role in these playoffs right now. And what did I have him for points per game? He's 0.627 points per game. So that's a lot, like over half a point a game player. He's played over 500 games already. He's got over 100 goals in the National Hockey League. That's impressive. You would have liked to have seen him do more of that here?
Yes.
In Arizona?
And he had a big start in Montreal, but then faded there. He's on his 4th NHL team now, which is troubling, right?
Suitcase.
And time is running out at age 27 for Max Domi. He's still one of the best players they've ever taken. He's still a very productive NHL player. I want to make that clear, but among players in that draft, he's way down in terms of points. And yeah, I don't know why. Maybe you have more insight into this. Why did it go wrong with Max Domi here? Why did he eventually want out? Was that all Ty? Was that his dad orchestrating his exit from this franchise?
I won't say specifically.
Okay.
Other than there are a lot of factors other than Max Domi's play here that it was probably time to move on. But keep in mind, though, he left here in 18-19. Like, the playoffs were nowhere near that team. Like, there wasn't to the point where they're going to be coming back into it. And I think Max wanted to be in a place where they were going to win and where he could be more of a offensive star, and it wasn't going to happen here. He started in 15-16, and that was full on rebuild. And I think it was a situation where they both, the franchise and Max Domi, needed a fresh start. I think he did a lot of great things here. Max is a hardworking guy. He was a good teammate, well liked. It was just time. And you hear that a lot. It was just time. It wasn't a bitter breakup or like Kyle Turris, where that was a horrible, disjointed breakup. They got Alex Galchenyuk coming back, who was another high draft pick that they thought was going to add some offensive speed. They just thought 2 players are going to get a change of scenery, and it was going to help them both. Okay. So it wasn't a negative, bad thing. It was just time.
Yeah. Yeah, and same agent for both guys. Pat Brisson represented both guys, so they were able to orchestrate that trade. I remember talking to Pat, right?
You know all that stuff.
So they found homes for both of them.
All right, so number 3.
Do you need to do an ad read before we get to our top 3? I feel like it
sure.
should be like the NHL draft lottery,
like the draft lottery
where we break to build the suspense.
And they're like going through the picks so quick we can't even keep up, and then a commercial break, and then a deflation. So we'll take our commercial break to tell you about the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and we talk about it every day, the NHL playoffs. There's 3 Game 7s tomorrow. That's unreal. So you can bet on all of those on DraftKings. It'll make it a lot more fun, I think, to have some money on the games. I talked about how much more fun it was to be at the D-backs game with people who had money on the game, and the NBA playoffs are going on, and hopefully the Suns can get it done on Sunday. It's a little upset.
Did you bring your racers with you?
I know my racers are speaking to me outside right now because they're just so excited about the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And this week, new customers can bet just $5 on any team to win and get $150 in free bets. If they do, you can also turn a small bet into a big payday during the NBA playoffs with same-game parlays. And right now, all customers can place a same-game parlay with 3 or more legs and get a free bet back up to $25 if one leg doesn't hit. And it's time for our DraftKings pick of the week, and we'll bring Sean back on the screen because Sean...
I was just going to say, is he awake?
Yeah. Sean is, on this show specifically, like hot with his picks.
Okay.
And at the baseball game the other day, hot with his picks. So, Sean, what do you have for us?
Got electric. I'm not going to give you any or players to hit a home run today. I got to go at the NBA playoffs. Game 6 for the Celtics-Milwaukee. It's been the best series in the NBA playoffs, I think. I feel like it's just destined to go 7. It's kind of a toss-up. The Celtics are at +1 right now. So I'm just going to go with the Celtics money line at -105. I think they take it to, or not take it to. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think they beat Milwaukee in Milwaukee.
Wow.
In Game 7. Regardless, I think it's going to be a good game, but we'll see. I'll have more picks for you, though, shortly after this show on the PHNX Bet show. So stick around on the YouTube.
Oh, look at that.
Wow. It's a heavy workload today after not sleeping
Yeah, seriously.
all night. So there's that.
We're going back?
Well, no, not quite yet. If you want to follow Sean's picks or do any picks of your own and let us know what you're picking on DraftKings on Twitter, you can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the promo code PHNX, bet $5 on any NBA team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. That's 21 and over. Arizona only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. All right, top 3 time.
Maybe we should have brought placards. So we could
That would have
flip
been
them over.
hilarious.
We should have.
Actually.
But guess what we did?
So the guy that we both have at number 3, let me ask you a question. Where would he have been before this season?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
Much lower, huh?
on my list, he's 7 or 8.
Wow.
But with that phenomenal season that he had, breakout season, the first season where he showed us he might be worth that big contract extension that John Chaika signed him to, Clayton Keller. I was so impressed by him this season. Complete game, too. That's as much as anything. You wanted to see the production, and production was going to be hard on this team this year without a legitimate number 1 center between he and Nick Schmaltz. It's tough to produce at the level, and he was nearly at a point per game clip. But I saw so much progress in the other parts of his game, the defensive side of the game, much more awareness, better reads, better attention to detail, and better effort on the defensive side of the puck. That's why he's climbed to number 3 for me. I'm really, really curious to see what we're going to see from Clayton Keller. Hopefully, he comes back from that injury. He said he was going to be skating really soon. Can he take it up another notch? If he can, he has a chance to be one of the best players in this franchise's history.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And you look at his first year out, he was a young, slight player. He needed to put on some weight. But even in that first year, his first complete year, scores more than 20 goals. And he gets 60 points. And you go, oh, shit, here we go. Like, giddy up. Then it fell off. And I think it fell off because people go, okay, well, Clayton Keller's on the ice. So, yeah, we better have somebody on Clayton Keller. We better defend him differently. And also the ice time he was getting that first year wasn't the ice time he was getting the second year. Now he's getting prime minutes. Now he's getting up against the other team's top defenders. So I think you saw that drop off in production for the next few years until he figured it out. And I think it took him that time to mature to go, okay, maybe I can't just dipsy doodle around and flip my stick around and I'm the guy. I got to play the entire 200 feet. And I think that once that woke up, he earns every penny of his contract right now. And I said it for years. He makes too much money. The contract's horrible. It's not anymore.
Yeah.
And he will be their best player. He was their MVP this year, and he still misses all those games. And clearly when he was out, they weren't able to score. They did win, so that's not fair. But they weren't able to put up the offensive end that they could when he was in the lineup. Yeah. He is propelled on that too. And then the other thing, and you talk about some of the things on how you pick this list, is you got to go who was picked after him. Sergachev, Tyson Joseph's played a lot of games, but there's not like Tage Thompson. Like,
I'll take Keller. That's one where I look at that list.
Yeah, you look at the list and you're taking Clayton Keller.
He's a 2-time NHL All-Star. He was the best player on the Coyotes this year. And Charles in the comments said Keller really turned it up this year, which was incredible, especially given everything this season was. And that's a good point, too. He had his best career year on a really bad team.
And yes. I think this is the first player that we can say this about. If they redrafted this draft today,
he'd go higher.
Yeah. And that might be one of the only Arizona draft picks that you could say that about.
He's 5th in points from that draft class. He was drafted 7th right now, and he
drafted 7th.
Decline.
Yeah, Jesse Puljujärvi and Olli Juolevi. I think he goes above both of those players. Maybe not over Austin Matthews. He's had a pretty good year too.
He's okay.
He's
fine.
But all right, number 2, the guy that we had on the at the start of the show on the thumbnail.
Was he on the thumbnail?
He was.
See, I didn't.
You were too busy complaining.
I'm too busy.
And I know. I know it didn't end well, but
6th overall in 2009, left-handed defenseman Oliver Ekman-Larsson is number 2 on both of our lists. And again, you look at the number of games he's played. He's at 848 games as of today, over 100 goals as a defenseman, almost half a point a game as a defenseman in the National Hockey League. When he broke in, he helped this team when they were at their peak. He was a regular player in that 2012 team. You thought every time he was going to go into the corner, someone was going to break him in half because he was so slight and skinny, and yet he would come out with the puck. His ability to win battles in the corner earlier in his career were better than they were later in his career. Mm-hmm. And it's, you wish he would have been able to keep that part of his game going. Through injuries and different things along his progression made some of those things tail off. But when you go back and watch Oliver Ekman highlights from his first 2 or 3 years, you forget how offensively dynamic he was as a player. And I mean, he was freaking good on the blue line on the power play. His ability to move the puck and his ability to get up the ice with the puck were phenomenal. And that kind of disappeared as he got older. That part of his game, that wow factor. And that's too bad because I still think the ceiling was higher for him. I still think there was more in him through whether it was injuries or personal
circumstances.
Yeah.
You know, like his mom passing away, injuries, this situation with the changing in coaches, just the circumstances in Arizona. It didn't really do any good for him.
Yep.
But I think we do forget those amazing, amazing years with him. And he was the captain of this team for a reason. And I know it didn't end well.
Yeah, it didn't even start well as his captaincy because there was some controversy about that. So,
but he, in terms of a player that was, and until this year, like he was a Coyote. Like Oliver Ekman-Larsson was synonymous with a Coyote, and he didn't get the recognition he deserved because of Arizona just being the market it is. I think if he was on in his peak years, if he was on an East Coast team or a Canadian team, the attention he would have gotten and the recognition he would have gotten would have been more and very deserved. But I think that it's a good number 2 on this list, given our criteria is a good place for him.
Back-to-back seasons scoring 20-plus goals. He had 23 goals. It's franchise record still. Go back to that 2012 playoff when Tip had him on the ice all the damn time.
Yeah.
Averaged 25-47 of ice time in that postseason. That's how much. It was 3 minutes more than the next closest player. That's how much Tip
he relied on
had
offensively and defensively.
Yeah.
His all-around game.
Phenomenal player back then. He's also a phenomenal human being. I love I love the guy.
The other thing, though, and we've talked about this, is the redraft. And Oliver was picked at 6. I don't know nationally what that draft would look like. I think we've got a little soft spot in our heart because he was the captain and he was Oliver. He was OEL. On where he would fit. Kadri came right after him, and Nazem Kadri, I mean, you could say what he brings to his team, but to compare him to the defenseman, the next one was Jared Cowan. Who? Like, OEL, there are some that there would be some debate. Kulikov's on that list as a defenseman. Nick Leddy, John Moore. I mean, Oliver's better.
Yep.
So if you redraft that, it's Braden Shen is at 5. I don't know. Evander Kane, Matt Duchene are above him. I think if he doesn't move up, he's right there.
Yep.
Like he's right in where he belongs.
Oh,
and I think it was a great draft pick.
Just terrific player for so many years. It's too bad that, when he started his career, it was right at the tail end of that successful run. And then he had to go through some really lean years of flogging heavy minutes and all. I mean, he was in decline by the time they had a chance to get back there. And let's be honest about it. He was not Rick Tocchet's kind of captain. They just never fully meshed, and that was part of the problem here too. But I still think at some point down the road, when his career's over, Oliver Ekman-Larsson is going to be in the Ring of Honor, and he should be.
Wow.
Well, I could see it. All right. Well,
do you have a drum roll?
Drum roll. We can. I don't think we do.
People are gonna love this one.
This one is gonna sting everyone. The number 1 top 15 Coyotes draft pick of all time.
Say it.
Oh, you did.
No,
you
I
gotta
want
make me
Leah
say
to
it.
say it.
Oh, okay. It's Blake Wheeler, who didn't even play a single minute for the Arizona Coyotes, and he is the best Coyotes draft pick in the top 15
of all time. And honestly,
Petey side.
Honestly, this was a hard one for all of us on the panel. We had to set the rules first because once you allow it to be a non-Coyote player have their success, it's not even close.
Nope.
Like this isn't even close. He's got over 1,000 games. He's on the verge of 300 goals. He scores at a pace 0.82 points per game. He's a point-a-game player in the National Hockey League through 1,000 games. Captain of his team, drives the bus there. He had a little blip in his radar, similar to the Kyle Turris problems, where maybe he thought he was something maybe he wasn't yet, but he's clearly become, because he not only had problems here, he had problems in Boston too. Yeah. So clearly there was a problem early. I don't want to say problem. It was just finding his way. But when you look at his numbers, they are phenomenal. And you put a strong right-handed shot barreling down the wing in 2012. If they would have put him at Shane Doan and then Blake Wheeler's coming up next, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Like, it's just the could-have, would-have, should-haves with Blake Wheeler just drive you insane. And I'll go back to the draft, because I always say this, and I don't want to diminish the scouts' roles, but Leah and I can go to the floor of the draft with the Hockey News and pick the top 10. Because we can. Because they're pretty much the top 10. That year, when they said Blake Wheeler from Breck High School in Minnesota, I'm from Minnesota. Breck High School is a small private school outside of the Minneapolis area. You go, who? Huh? Where? Like, I swear I couldn't believe it. I'm thumbing through it. Wasn't in the top 100.
Wow.
You don't find players like that anymore. You don't shock the world like they shocked the world.
Isn't it a shame that they couldn't get him to play here? Because that's the kind of pick where you, like, it cements somebody's status as, wow, you found
that
Blake
guy.
Wheeler.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nobody had him. Like, it's, you know, when people talk about like Zetterberg and Datsuk going so late, like, how the hell did that happen? Well, nobody expected Blake Wheeler, and the Coyotes found him, and then he turned into a fantastic player, an all-star. And he did it all in Winnipeg. Of all places, Winnipeg, where they came from.
And the other thing is, what's interesting, and it's funny too, because when you'd have those head-to-head matchups in Winnipeg and Doan would fly back, the crowd's adoration and love for Blake Wheeler and the disdain for Shane Doan, he would get booed mercilessly.
How do you boo
But he had nothing.
Doan?
Shane didn't move the team. Surprise.
Right.
He didn't move the team, but they identified him with the movement, and he just would get booed so badly in that building. And it was a competition between Wheeler and Doan. Every time we faced off in Winnipeg, it was exciting to watch because they were both big, strong, right-handed players. Unfortunately, Winnipeg got the better of it. The one other thing we talked about is where that redraft happens.
Yeah.
And he's a phenomenal player. He's phenomenal. His numbers are great. And he might, at picked at 5, might move up 2 spots.
Oh, I think you would, because I'm glad you brought that up, and you brought up Doan as well, because Wheeler has 867 points. Right now, it would rank second in Coyotes history to Shane Doan's 972. Blake Wheeler's still playing.
Yeah.
So he's got a chance to pass Shane Doan, get to 1,000 points. Among players selected in that draft, he's third in points behind
some pretty good players.
Alex Ovechkin and Evgeny Malkin.
Yep. Ovechkin, Malkin, Wheeler. And
That's
again,
unbelievable.
you got to go back to those scouts. Like, that's a mic drop, isn't it?
Yep.
Let's say, yeah, I picked him. No big deal, I'm done. Like, that's a big, not in the top 100, and now
it's
he's
just too bad
5th?
that he didn't
That he didn't
end
play
up on
here.
the Coyotes, and Charles said, "Why you got to hurt us like this?"
And one more. There's some other things on this list. On that particular year, 2004.
Yes.
Blake Wheeler doesn't play here. But if you go down the list of 2004 top first-round picks, how many guys did play here? Starting with Andrew Ladd, who was a 4th pick. Al Montoya, who was picked at 6. Keep going. There's a lot more. Devin Dubnyk at 14 played here. Kyle Chipchura at 18 played here.
Wow.
Lori Korpikoski at 19 played here. Wojtek Woski at 21 played here.
That's unbelievable, actually.
And that's all of the guys that were in that first round of that year that the Coyotes didn't pick. They all played here. The guy we picked didn't. Makes absolutely no sense.
That's hilarious.
So anyway, to sum it all up, the best draft pick in the top 15 spots in the history of the Phoenix/Arizona Coyotes is Blake Wheeler.
Well, let's recap both of your picks. So we'll start with Craig's top 10 list. Counting down from 10, Victor Soderstrom at 10, Dylan Strome at 9, Kyle Turris at 8, Mikhail Bodker at 7, Dylan Guenther at 6, Barrett Hayton at 5, Max Domi at 4, Clayton Keller at 3, OEL at 2, Blake Wheeler at 1, and Petey's list at 10, Soderstrom, Bodker at 9, Guenther at 8, Turris at 7, Hayton at 6, Strome at 5, Domi at 4, Keller at 3, OEL at 2, Wheeler at 1. We will be posting both of these on our Twitter at PHNX_Coyotes today. So go ahead and vote. You can put your arguments if you feel like someone is missing from the list. And by the way, there was players in those 17 to 11 spots. We didn't get to talk about them.
We have got plenty of time.
We have plenty of time in the off season. We can talk about, and
we'll
saw
talk
someone
about some misses.
Yes,
too,
and
later.
someone asked about Connor Garland.
Our bottoms.
Yeah,
we'll
Garland.
Later.
Like, we'll do a list of the best draft picks from the whole draft of all. This was just the 15, top 15 overall of all time.
Because it was exciting to talk about some of the good ones. Yeah. I think next time we'll get a chance to talk about some of the bad ones.
There's a lot of material to talk about there, buddy.
There is, and also
when we say some of these names, people are gonna be like,
"Who? What?
I don't even know that name."
Yeah. And I just
first round draft pick.
And it's funny you talked about how Clayton Keller jumped up your list this year.
What are you laughing at?
Matthew
Petey should be arrested for putting Strome at 5. Yeah, I'll be curious to see the Twitter replies.
Thank you. Good night. That's my last show.
Yeah, I really want to hear also on Twitter and in the members only Discord what your list would be. Please tell us and give us your arguments, and we'll
better yet,
it.
give us comments like that.
Yeah, that's good.
I know.
But talking about how Keller moved up so far, it'll be interesting. Maybe next year we'll say, oh, maybe what if Gunther does come in the league this year and has an amazing rookie season? Who knows? And with all the Coyotes picks in this upcoming draft, maybe in a year or 2 years from now, if we do this again, to see hopefully some of the picks from the 2022 draft will make the top 10.
Craig and I will come out of retirement to do the show on these picks.
Oh my gosh.
From this year's draft. Yeah, we'll bring the walkers in.
Well, please give us a follow on Twitter at PHNX_Coyotes. Become a member at gophnx.com. If you're not already, you're missing out because you get members deals on merchandise. There's amazing stuff in the PHNX Locker. You get access to the members only Discord. You get to read all of Craig's incredible stories and the stories of the other writers here at PHNX. Gerald writes about the Suns, and I know he had some thoughts after last night's loss, so you can give those a read as well. A lot of great content on the website, and we'll be putting out draft content that will be behind the paywall on the website as well. So as we go ahead in our draft coverage and draft preparation, you'll want to be a member before that as well. Any final notes on this Friday?
Lastly, I just want to say there was a really good idea that not only we're going to go through Coyotes picks through all rounds, and there are some really good ones that were found later. I think on one of our Around the NHLs as the season progresses, and maybe after the playoffs are over, we could do an Around the NHL best picks outside of the top 3 rounds of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the best
Speaking of Zetterberg and
pick.
Datsuk,
right.
Yeah,
those kind of picks.
That's great. That'd be fun.
That would definitely be fun.
There you go.
So
I'm done for the day again. That's it.
And I'm just going to say happy weekend, everybody. We're going to roll Sean into the quiet room now.
No, Sean has to be on he's on Bets at noon. He's on ASU at 1. The grind numbers. Oh, what?
He's boohoo, he said from out there.
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll wrap this up. Thank you all so much for watching. We appreciate you. Follow us on Twitter at PHNX_Coyotes. You can vote on the poll this afternoon and give us your arguments against these two also. You can give your top 10 and we'll see if we agree.
Read my story too on the bad contracts the Coyotes might be taking, because I spent like a week on it. No, it wasn't that long, but it felt like a week at some points. Because I went through every NHL team to find the bad contracts that the Coyotes could target to bring in draft assets.
All right.
It's a labor of love.
So
have a good weekend, everybody.
Check that out at gophnx.com. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back on our Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 11 a.m. live, Tuesday, Thursday audio next week. So everyone, have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday.